But as far as switching of the guards, Ethan, actually this brings up one of your big questions, and let's actually start with the Oakland Raiders. I mean, not the Oakland Raiders. I wish they were in Oakland, but the Las
So,
Vegas Raiders.
yeah, I think we need to talk about things that didn't happen. I think they were arguably more important than things that did happen. So yeah, like one of my questions is, what can we expect from these new look Raiders? I know there's a video about Hunter Renfrow basically skipping into the training facility today, looking incredibly happy that the GM and head coach were fired. So I don't know, is this Raiders culture going to change? Because a lot of people were expecting Adams and potentially Jacobs to not be there anymore.
So here's the problem, and this is what this. So based on the reports we were reading from people, this explains why they just didn't make a move because it sounds like GM and Josh McDaniels were basically like, no, we're going to right the ship, we're going to make this happen, and Mark Davis just said enough's enough. And
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
literally I was up at midnight when this dropped, and it was, hey, deuces, they're gone, offensive coordinator gone, Antonio Pierce is the interim head coach, which
Mhm.
also means that there's, I think they're spending like 50 million towards fired coaches right now, which is kind of hilarious
Heck yeah.
because Gruden was a year and a half ago. So I think here's the problem. I don't know what you do with Jacobs or Davante Adams because I could see them going, I am done with this year. I am out because they're already benched Jimmy. They're going with rookie Aiden O'Connell. So what's the point of putting stress on your body like that unless either A, you're just going to play it out because you're going for a contract, or B, if you can force yourself out like Odell did a few years ago. And I think for Devontae, that might actually be a potential solution. Which then with Josh Jacobs, that's also where it gets interesting because the Raiders were this close to trading him, according to reports. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think it puts Adams and Jacobs in flux. As far as fantasy this year, and I would even say fantasy next year. Like at this point, they don't even matter until they're gone from
Yeah.
Las Vegas.
Yeah, and then it
Well,
really depends
and
on who they go to.
yeah, well, and I want to kind of chain on to that. Um, one of it was a rumor going around today that one of the teams that was going after Davante Adams and put in a request to trade for him was the Jets. They actually
Makes sense.
apparently put in a trade for Davante Adams and Mike Evans. So they put in a trade for both of them to see who would take, and they were rejected on both ends. So, I mean, are they trying to stack their wide receiving room for, the return of Aaron Rodgers eventually? I know he's trying to come back at the end of this year. He
With enough
wants to
drugs.
play this. He wants to play this season. Yeah, it's ayahuasca.
Yeah,
That's pretty much what is fueling him right now. But, he wants to come back by the end of the season. Could they be, just buying time for a playoff run and putting the weapons in place for him? So,
I my
that could
wholehearted
happen.
opinion here is if the Jets pulled off Devontae Adams, you would have seen a spending spree from the Chiefs and the Ravens personally.
Yeah.
Just because even though Zach Wilson's there, and obviously we can go on and on about Zach Wilson in general, but
Terrible.
the fact of the matter is that if that team is that loaded, and for how loaded we've been talking about the AFC is in general, that would have been the like the shot across the bow of okay, this is for real now. Like we saw what the
Yeah.
NFC did, like Chase Young to the 49ers, Montez Sweat to the Bears, but
Yeah.
I think, I mean, the crazy thing is, it wasn't so. Devontae the Jets was one. There was another. I thought Devontae the Bills was also another one that was mentioned,
Oh, I never heard that.
but
That's
but I
interesting.
I I would have to look that up because I might be wrong on that. Also, Hunter Renfrow to the Saints was also mentioned,
Yep. Hmm.
which that one doesn't make sense.
It's
Uh,
whatever. It's
but
the
that
Saints are
but
just trying to
Yeah.
get their name out there at this point.
so and then let's not even get to that point. Josh Jacobs to Ravens was also almost a done deal. So that's at least three, and who knows how many more offers that weren't talked about. or at least reported or leaked. That's at least three
Yeah.
offers that we know about, and the Raiders just stood pat.
Yeah.
And now, because I mean, you fire your head coach and GM, you've benched Jimmy G. Like, are we really about to watch them suffer for 9 weeks? Like, I can personally see both Jacobs and Davante Adams saying, "Oh, I have injuries. I'm done." And then everyone else is
Yeah.
just playing for
I think
a
that's the
future
wait and
team.
see. Like, you don't know if they're going to play for a contract. You don't know if they're just going to, you know, load manage and take off the season, but that's what we'll find out.
I
The
mean, I
last,
don't I don't foresee them just benching themselves and getting out of there. They might not put 100% effort, but I don't see them just benching themselves. So,
yeah. Well, the last part of my big question was kind of rounding off our talk on Heinicke, on just expectations going forward. This is kind of his debut playing the Vikes. I think personally it's a good matchup. Not having London, I think, would hurt, but he didn't have him for basically the entire second half and lit up Tennessee. So I don't know how much that matters. Um, but what are your guys' expectations for Taylor Heinicke?
Honestly, it's going to be a lot like Tannehill. Mistake-free football, take what the defense gives you, but we're winning with the running game. I just think Heinicke is a bit more effective throwing the ball. He's going to hit a lot more of the timing routes over the middle to then send one over top. And I think they're willing to let go. He doesn't have the strongest arm, but he does have good timing. And whereas I think Ritter was the exact opposite, like a good arm, bad timing. And a lot of that is with his throwing motion. But I think it's going to be a lot more. I wouldn't say dink and dunk because I think everyone's going to be crowding the line of scrimmage anyway. But I do think you're going to see a lot more passes, like just hitting over the middle, just because they can't do that now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm personally excited for him. I think he has very strong QB2 value. Um, I think he can put up top 10 numbers. He's obviously not going to finish in the top 10, being 8 weeks into the season. But I think to round off this year, kind of going into the second half, he's going to be a strong QB. I don't think he's going to lose the job. I think he's I think he's going to be pretty solid. He's going to take the Falcons to the playoffs.
I think that's why they made the move too. This was because, especially when you have New Orleans sputtering, and when you have Carolina being Carolina, and then you have Tampa Bay
And you
starting
already know
great
that
but now
we're better
sputtering.
than Tampa Bay.
Yeah, and then
yeah.
you have the NFC West that you have to fight for. And the Rams are kind of screwed with Matthew Stafford's injury, and then the NFC
Oh yeah,
East,
it's
you
Seattle and
just
San
saw,
Fran, and San Fran's not that good.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's where if I'm Atlanta, I'm like, okay, there's a shot. And I'm looking at Atlanta's schedule right now. You have Minnesota, Arizona, two good matchups, but then you really have the Jets in Week 13, and that's your last hard team. And I think they said, you know what, half the season's a good enough experiment. We know what Ritter is, but we also know what Heinicke is, and
Who can win
I
us
think,
these last set of games?
yeah, as far
Yeah.
as a
Without it
fantasy
being
perspective,
painful.
I will be shocked if he actually like is lighting things up. But I definitely think things can be lined up for him to where it goes, oh, hey, he's casually getting a 20, 22 points. He's going to be a really good streamer because his playoff schedule, to be honest with you, is fantastic.
Yeah,
Carolina, Indy, and Chicago.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
unbelievable. It's unbelievable how
Yeah.
good
And I
Falcons
think I
schedule
think
is.
right now Atlanta really only needs a game manager. Like that's what they
Yeah,
need. They need
They're
somebody
built
that'll
like
that's all
that.
protect
we
the
needed for
ball.
the last 2 years.
They're just gonna lean on the run, lean on Bijan, lean on their
Except
other
for
running
losing that
backs,
Birdie.
and just let it go and just run the ball down people's throats. And then every once in a while toss a pass up. But they just need a game manager, and I think Heinicke is a good game manager for them.
And the last part is, Josh, will you let the church's win streak continue?
For anyone who doesn't know, Ethan started the year 0-5 and has since won, what, 3 in a row? Am I correct in saying that, Ethan?
I'm 3 straight so far.
Yeah, 3 straight. His team has finally woken up. We knew this would moment come, and the only answer I have to tell you, Ethan, is may the fantasy gods ever be in your favor.
That means no.
I will not disrespect the fantasy gods. How they have determined that I must have in my redraft league, where I've lost 7 players this year for extended periods of time, and I am 1-7. So,
Well, what if this is your opportunity? Like, what if you had one chance, to generate some good karma?
well, Ethan,
Would you let it slip?
I don't know about letting it slip, but if I am influenced, if I feel divine intervention happening upon me, I think things will be just let up for the fantasy gods to decide.
All right, that means no. Ryan, what
Before
is
we get to Ryan's big question, I brought up through over the cap on Davante Adams' contract. If he's going to leave Las Vegas, he is going to have to restructure the heck out of it. Next year's dead cap, how about 40 million if he gets cut next year or traded?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, but he has no guaranteed money in 25 and 26, so he's going to have to restructure it to get out.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm them, I'm tanking and grabbing a top QB for the Raiders.
Yeah, I think the Raiders are actually. I think
Let him
Caleb
hop in on
Williams said
Marcus.
he would go to the. You mean Drake May?
Drake May, excuse me.
Marcus May is a great safety. I think he's playing for the Jets. Not Jets. Saints still.
I confuse people all the time.
But Ryan, your big question.
My big question is,
Why do I suck?
will Ethan win this league this year?
If Brian and I have anything to say
That
about
is a
it.
big no. All right.
It is a big question.
Look, I didn't say anything.
Ryan
has
you know
sealed
the
his
gravity
fate.
of what happens if I beat Josh this week? It would actually be.
Man.
Hey, look,
okay.
Ethan.
All
just
right.
in our league alone, we watched Ryan's dad lose 4 in a row to win 14 in a row.
Yes, he did.
Anything is possible.
It can happen. It can happen.